Welcome to Distracted, the podcast with Angela Lockwood, the place where you will find practical brain-boosting strategies, expert insights, and real-life stories to help busy brains thrive in the age of distraction. Let's go. Welcome to Distracted. I'm Angela Lockwood, and today I am joined by Michelle Mitchell. And I just wanted, before I introduce Michelle and welcome her to Distracted, I want to tell you what led me to inviting Michelle on Distracted for you. This is a special episode for all of you parents. So it doesn't mean that if you are not a parent, you won't get value out of our conversation. But for those of you who are busy working parents who have children, this is a really special episode for you. I saw Michelle at the Resilient Kids Conference on the Gold Coast earlier this year. She had an amazing lineup of speakers there, and Michelle was one of them. And what I loved by listening to Michelle's content was not only was it extremely insightful based on so many years of experience in working with children and families, but there was also a deep love and passion for the work that she does, but also a really unique, intuitive sense of what kids in the modern world really need. And so I thought, for all of you on here, I often get asked questions myself around how do I parent in this modern age? How do I parent and be the busy working parent that I am and make sure my kids are getting what they need and they're not being parented by online and social media? Can I have some strategies as well? So I thought I'd go to an expert in the field who is Michelle Mitchell. But Michelle, thank you so much for being on here on Distracted.
Oh, I feel so privileged to be here. Thanks so much for having me, Angela.
Oh, look, it's my pleasure. And I really mean it. I remember going to the conference and you put on such an amazing event. And I know live events are such a passion of yours, but there was something about the energy in the room of the people.
Yeah.
And I know that you definitely set that tone of the room. What is it about kids and working with families that really lights you up? Because your energy was infectious.
Oh, thank you. I think for me, it started even when I was quite young. I even knew at 14 that I would be doing what I'm doing today. And I think even as I guess at times troubled, kind of feeling confused teenager that I looked around at other kids that didn't have the connected, loving family that I did. And I thought, how are they doing it? And by the time I was in grade 12, I was volunteering for programs for kids at risk that didn't have families and in skate parks, programs in high schools that would feed kids breakfast. And I was very, very much on the ground level engaged with that type of sort of volunteer work because I just couldn't bear the thought of a kid growing up without trusted adults around their lives. So I guess it's a passion that I've stoked even from the time I was 16, 17 in my life.
That's a really unique thing because what we hear so often, and I'm sure you've got so much more insight into this, but children who are, I guess, in their teens, they're not really that children anymore, but children in their teens are often very much about themselves. That's what we hear. We
Yeah.
hear that they're very all about me culture, whether that's true or not. But for you, you're actually very different by the sounds of things, that you were looking at what support can I give to others? Did it feel like that at the time, or was it just so natural for you just to want to reach out?
I was so sure of what I was meant to do in the world. And I get so saddened to see our grade 12 kids leaving high school with just no idea of where to put their foot next. And I'm not okay with it, to be honest. And I think we make excuses like, oh, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I left school. And I don't want our kids to necessarily have to know their forever career, but I'm not okay with our kids not having a sense of their strengths and who they are. And I think for me, I definitely knew that I had strengths in that sort of caring field and that field of I guess advocacy for people. I knew that. And whatever our kids' strengths are, I think by the time they leave school, if they don't have a sense of that, we're doing them a disservice as adults. Somehow we haven't given them the opportunity or the exposure to get their hands dirty with who they are.
Why do you think that's the case then, Michelle? Why are kids leaving school with a really unclear sense of who they are or what they want to be doing. And also, I guess this is a two-sided question. Why do some kids not have that clarity where it seems like so many other kids are very clearly defined by what they want? They know where they're going. What's the difference, and what are some of those factors that come into play?
I think there's all sorts of factors. So it's just very careful I don't answer this in a judgy way at all, because I think for some kids, you can put all sorts of opportunities on the line and it doesn't necessarily get it over the line for them. I think we've got to be careful we don't spend our whole lives trying to upskill kids and think that's the answer. What we're trying to do is put opportunities in front of them and then ask them what energizes them. Because I think what we're looking for is that sense of what lights you up. And that's not necessarily giving kids more skills. It's looking at what makes you feel alive, kid, and that can change from day to day with children, but it's like they get this underlying sense of what makes their body just tingle, like, yeah, that's who I am. And I loved public speaking and I loved all sorts of things. But my dad put himself out so much. Like, he was not the dad on the couch when he came home from work. Um, I went down to the local Lamington shop and I negotiated with the baker to sell me wholesale Lamingtons. And my dad came home from work. He was a hairdresser. But Saturday afternoon, he would put the Lamingtons in the back of his car, crank up the aircon because it was the middle of summer in Queensland, and he would let me run door to door selling Lamingtons. And I then hired out my first employee, which was my sister, and I learnt business. And my dad was painstakingly patient with that process. And there was all sorts of little business ventures I took on in my sort of 8, 10, 11-year-old life. But that takes time. Parents, that takes time. And I think it's much easier to put our kids in front of the Xbox. It's much easier to put our kids in front of an iPad. One of my staff recently, her daughter got obsessed with horses. The lengths that mum went to get her girl volunteering in a horse stable. She had to drive her daughter. She had to organise it all. Now, that's time that I'm sure she would have rather been spent sipping lattes with a girlfriend. But it's the effort we put in when our kids light up with these ideas that seem crazy, that it really does pay off in the long run.
Mm. I love that concept of what lights you up, because
Yeah.
I'm going to translate a little bit forward a couple of decades here to us adults, because what I see in my line of work, that a lot of people themselves, a lot of adults themselves have lost the spark. They've lost what lights them up. So do you think for kids that are coming through, if they're looking to role models in their life who have also lost the spark, how can or do you think that that's some of the challenge with kids that are leaving school, that they're wanting to look for role models who are lit up, but they are finding it difficult to find? Or is it that there's so many things that could light them up, they're not quite sure where to turn?
Could be either. It could
Mm.
be either. But I think we're boring as adults. Do you
So
think we've lost? Don't you think we can get really boring? I mean, like, when was the last time we did something really crazy? Just like took a risk? Like, light yourself on fire, people. Like, I think we need something interesting to talk about, especially if you've got teenagers. Parents, 3 words for you: get a life away from your kids. Like, be interesting. And I think as adults, it's very easy to be uninteresting. What I like about our kids feeling energized is I feel like it's an incredible fallback strategy for when they feel low, down, or depressed when they get older, because it is a great way to find your way back home. If you know what your body feels like when it's alive and you don't feel alive, then where do you turn? You turn to your strengths. You go start making pottery again, or you start running again, or you do those things that light you up. And I know for me in my life, when I've gone through low periods, the very first thing I turn to is my strengths. And I think if they see adults doing that, gosh, that's got to be the best modeling we could ever give them.
Mm. And that's so true because that getting a life is not all about work. And I often get asked this question, is, my kids, they need to learn that I also need to work so that they might be working from home or they might be working remotely.
Mhm.
And I always find that a really interesting comment because I feel like sometimes we're giving ourselves excuses for why we should be on our computer more or why we're on devices and not connecting with our kids. Do you think it's taking parents more effort nowadays to connect with their kids in the real world off devices?
Yeah, absolutely. Because kids are stimulated and they expect
Mm,
a lot, don't they?
mm.
So it's that transition from, okay, I mean, teenagers want novelty, especially. So, I mean, just hanging around doesn't always float their boat. So there's this requirement of energy when we're tired. So yes, I would say so. And I think parents feel this obligation to go from work to revolving their whole life around their kids. And I challenge that concept with parents because then their whole life's either revolving around work or their whole life is revolving around kids. And especially, highly functioning, professional, working families, I say it's actually really not a great way to model for your children, because what you're saying to them is, my whole life either revolves around work or you. And you need to put more of you in any relationship. Or what it breeds is really kids who are quite entitled. They kind of think their whole world revolves around them when you're not at work. And I don't think that's healthy for them. So they need to be able to share you with the things that light you up as well. It makes for a healthier dynamic at the end of the day.
That even makes me smile listening to you say that. So, for listeners who may be taking that on board and felt a little bit defensive while Michelle was saying that, it's okay. Maybe that struck a little tiny bit of a chord with you that that maybe that connection piece is something that you need to work on. But it made me smile, Michelle, because so often I look at my relationships with my kids. I've got a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old, and I'm so proud of the people that they're becoming and they have become because they're fun, they're serious, they're creative, they're insightful, they challenge me. So many
I
times,
do.
they really challenge my thinking, and sometimes I say things as a parent now, and I go, actually, that wasn't actually right in my own head. And so for parents who I guess are really in those leadership roles, which is a lot of my audience, or they might be teachers or people who are in roles where they have staff, where at work people listen to them. That I communicate, I ask, people do. How does that translate in the home? Because I would imagine there'd be a lot of challenges with um, teenagers don't always do what you say. So how do you
Oh,
translate that? And what are some of the skills, I guess, that people can use in both environments?
oh, yeah, I know. And when we bring the same energy home, my children have said to me, "You're not michellemitchell.org here." That is literally what my two boys, that's come out of their mouth at me. And I have, oh my gosh, like reel that in, kid. But look, it's no different for me because, I've had my 20-year-old read my parenting book from front to back just to make sure I'm telling the truth. So, like they're the first ones to comment, especially if they know you're a teacher or, you're going to a conflict resolution, professional development on the weekends, and they want to know what you've learned, and, they want to skim their eyes over it. So, look, with your own children, it's a really interesting one, and I can't go past the piece of trust, consistency, and connection. They know when your heart is in the game, and when your heart is in the game, it's amazing how much you can fumble through things and get the details wrong. And I think when we are professional people who know a lot of information, we can get our head in the detail and just have our heart missing sometimes because we're busy. Our kids desperately, desperately crave connection and they fear separation. And if we can underscore everything we do in our homes with that and infuse our language with nothing will separate you from my love, it's amazing how many mistakes you can make. And our kids actually can trust us to the moon and back because of it. Another thing I always make sure when we're talking about teenagers now, but there's a whole lot of ways you can actually boost positive neurochemicals at the same time as pulling them into line. Like I've said to my kids sometimes, things like, gosh, your moods are on fire today. Do you want to rewind that one? Like do that one again, like if they're cheeky to you, or hey, mate, I love you, but I don't love the way you're speaking to me. It's like there's a way with teenagers that can kind of get things over the line without having to lord over them. And I always think it's when it comes to teenagers, you're trying to get the power with, not power over. And the power with kind of idea is so powerful. It's like now you and I are walking side by side. I've got proof that I'm a better person because you're in my life, and we're better as a team. And the more that we can work towards, life and working towards life as a team, the better we're going to both be together. And if you can approach those tricky moments with that kind of intent, it's good. I think there's two things with teenagers I always think. There's trying to make them think it's their idea is always the best way to go. But then there's times where it's just non-negotiable and you've got to be the mum and you've got to have that in-charge energy. And if you've got enough trust in the bank, they normally follow you on it.
Mhm. I just love all of that. I feel like I should have been taking notes as well as listening, because there are so many times, particularly for our teenagers, that our relationship evolves, doesn't it? As a
Yeah.
parent, when you've got teenage kids, whether it be in that tween years, which is that 8 to 12, and you're definitely the expert, written a book on for parents who have children of that age. So if you are a parent with a child 8 to 12 years, and you might be needing some guidance, then Tweens by Michelle Mitchell is definitely the book, and we'll make sure that we link that in the show notes. But that will be a perfect guide for you. As children progress over 12, which is definitely where I find myself in my world right now, my relationship changes, and it feels like it consistently changes as they also change and find their way. Michelle, I'd love to know, what are you seeing as the impact of social media on parents? Control's not the right word. Their ability to parent with confidence. And I guess that's what I hear a lot with people saying, well, what's the point? They're just going to go online and find that. Or, they almost get fearful that if they tell their child anything, that the child will go online, find the counter argument to it. And that relation,
And
which
they
they
do.
do.
And they do.
Remember when you said that? Well, what I found was,
Yeah.
so for parents who almost have a bit of a fear around social media with their kids and worrying that their role as a parent is almost just becoming a little bit dissolved.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts around that?
I think it depends on the age of the child. But I always say to parents, I've never known a child drowning at sea that hasn't wanted to be rescued. And there are so many kids that literally feel like they're drowning under the constant barrage they get through social media, the drama that happens, everything from, world events, attempted assassinations, all the way through. I mean, if you really look at what kids look at in a 7-day cycle, their nervous systems are shot. And if I look at a 13-year-old's life and look at life through the eyes of that kid, I would be looking at the big people in my life thinking, why is no one doing anything about this?
Yeah.
I would be thinking, like, where are the big people? And why can't I trust you people to step in and take care of me? Because I can't even sleep because I'm worried about that phone dinging. And so what are you doing? And who is showing up for me? And so that's not great attachment with our kids. That's not healthy for our kids. And if we don't step up, there's a problem. There's a quote I'm using from Winston Churchill at the moment. It sounds awfully militant using Winston Churchill, doesn't it? But he said there comes a time in every leader's life where they must step up and meet the needs of their generation. And I feel like that's exactly how I feel. Our kids need us to step up, not with swords, okay? So we don't need to step up like that, but we do need to rise to meet the needs of these kids, and they need us and expect us to. Now, if you've got kids who are 13 or 8 or 15 or 21, it's all different. And depending on the amount of freedom they've had on their phone, it is all different. But we need to meet them where they are at. And our primary role in connecting with them is bringing safety around their lives. This whole connecting with our kids, it's not a warm, fuzzy thing. It's not just so our kids like us. It's not so they can feel good about their relationship with us. It's actually so we can lead them forward. It's so that they will follow us and follow us to safe places and to be good, decent humans. And that's a real responsibility here.
I love that, leading the way forward, and that's really what we want, don't we? We want our kids to become great humans,
Mhm.
caring humans, humans that are kind, who do good in the world. And what I'm seeing so much is that disconnect between how we parent in the real world, meaning off devices, to parenting in the online world.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing a lot is that disconnect between, it's all a little bit too hard. But in the real world, a lot of people almost over-parenting and making sure that kids don't
Yeah.
fail, and making sure that they're only ever in, feeling good emotions and positive emotions.
I
Um, it just gets too confused. It's confusing for us parents, right? It's confusing. So I can't even imagine how confusing it would be for the kids.
Yeah, and I wonder it's because we get such a big reaction when we parent their online world, don't we? We get such a big reaction. That becomes very difficult to do. So we invest all our energy into, I guess real world issues in life, and we get very invested there. I would challenge parents to choose one thing regarding their online world that feels manageable and doable, that you think will make the most significant change. For a lot of families, that's getting their devices out of their room at least by 8 o'clock at night, and having maybe no-go zones in the house. In their bed is one thing that I think
Mm.
would be just really important. Bathrooms are another thing. Bathrooms and bedrooms. Depending on the age of the child, you might want to limit technology to one room in the house. If they're under 12, I think that's completely doable. Um, like just choose one thing to conquer at a time. I think when it comes to technology, we try and do it too perfectly or do too much at once, and then it's just not doable. So just scale it back and do one thing at a time and do it well. It'll be manageable not just for you, but for your child as well, and won't just rupture your whole family life and your relationship with them.
I love that. It's just keeping it to one thing. And what's the thing that's almost annoying you the most, or what's manageable the most? I love that. And I guess also being able to have your children see you role modeling positive behaviors too. So if it's like, don't keep your devices in your room, but you're scrolling on your phone as you fall asleep at nighttime, and your child walks in and sees you on your phone, they're going to question, well, why is it okay for you and not for me? And they do question, don't they?
Yeah. And it can be things like dinner table, the dinner table, or while we're watching TV together as a family. That's another big one. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think small changes can make a big difference. So start somewhere.
Michelle, I just want to go back to the connection piece.
Mhm.
One of the ways I just look at, say, for my son, is he is on Instagram, no other platforms by choice. But one of the ways I connect with him is through sending stupid memes to him. It might be, or even memes of interest, or reels I've seen that he might be interested in, and we go backwards and forwards. Now, that's one of the ways that we connect. And I figure that is a way, obviously, we have a great relationship in real life. But I sort of, and I would love your thoughts on this for parents who are thinking, well, how do I become a part of their online world without being creepy and, liking all their posts or, being a
Yeah,
part of their conversation thread? Because
yeah.
really, your friends don't want to see you liking
Yeah, don't
your
do
their
that. Yeah,
posts.
that's so not cool. No, no, no. Yeah,
To
yeah,
me, and my son, our relationship is very much those funny memes. Like we
yeah.
laugh, we talk about it. Um, do you have any other ways that parents can build a lovely connection with their kids through the online world
Mm.
that you've seen work really well?
Yeah, I have actually. Um, Mums that send their kids like a beautiful quote every Monday. Um, and I've actually seen kids print them out and create a booklet and give it to their mums on Mother's Day. Literally have seen that happen. And, our kids don't reply back every Monday, "Thanks, mum, you're the best. This is awesome," right? But it's just that kind of sprinkle of, "I'm thinking of you." And I'm thinking of you in the language that you appreciate, which is these short little grabs that your generation get. It's one sentence, it's quick, it's delivered to you on your phone. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful way to connect with our kids. And if you can leverage that and it's working, just do it. Parents often ask me this: how much is too much? I say, well, it's too much the moment it gets between you and your child. When your child's attached to their phone more than they're attached to you, it's a problem. So it's again that a connection and attachment piece. When it's between you and your child, gaming, technology, anything, it's a problem. It's also a problem with their friends if it's between you and your child. Anything that comes between you and your child is a problem. So I think if you can utilize technology to build attachment, it's beautiful.
Mhm. You talk a lot about resilience with kids, and before we finish up, I feel like I could keep speaking to you for hours and hours, and I'm sure you can keep delivering amazing insights and advice for hours as well. Resilience. So it is everywhere when in terms of supporting our kids, and I see it sometimes really misunderstood
Mhm.
about what resilience actually means. What you just ran all through Australia and through New Zealand this amazing conference for parents all around resilience for kids. Tell me a little bit about what resilience looks like for kids now and why is it such an important topic for us to be aware of?
Oh, I love this. There's so many definitions of resilience, right? So we can talk about adapting in the face of adversity, and I do like that. But I
Mm,
like to talk in terms of analogies, and I've just developed this analogy that I think gets to the point of what I feel resilience is for every child, which is unique for every child. Think of life like a gym session, and kids are in the gym session doing squats. At some point, they're going to experience the pain that comes from doing squats. Now, at that point, we have a choice. We can either be their resilience coach or we can pull them out of the game. Now, you imagine if a child's legs start to get sore from doing squats and we go, "Oh, honey, take a seat. Do you want a Coca Cola? Day off school? Oh, let's swing past McDonald's on the way home." Like, you know what I mean? Like, we just pull them out of the game and like really pamper them because they've got sore legs from doing squats. Or we can do what we would do if we were a great personal trainer. We'd get right beside them, power with, and we'd go, "I think you've got 5 more in you." Now, we don't want to squat kids to death. We don't want them to end up in the hospital, but we want them to be able to tolerate the discomfort that comes with pain, and we want them to feel their power. We want them to know when they feel uncomfortable, they've got 5 more in them. And that's what I feel like resilience actually is. It's knowing that you've got 5 more in you and that you can stand next to a child, power with, and count down with them. 5, 4, 3, 2. What did that feel like? Did that energize you?
Well, that energized me, Michelle. I'm like, quick, I want to do squats now. I've got 5 more in me. I know I have. And you can feel that, right? You can really feel that shift of energy and going, of course, that is a motivational piece.
Mm.
That is not allowing kids to tap out just because it's a little bit, as you say, sitting in the discomfort. And I love that feeling. I see too often that we allow kids to check out before they truly know what they're capable of. And it's that, and I've been that myself throughout my life. The moment that things start to get a little bit uncomfortable, or I start to go, oh, this is a little bit stepping out of my comfort zone, it often is a moment, isn't it, of reflection.
Yeah.
And as an adult, you have the insight and the ability to go, am I doing it again? But kids don't have that yet, do they? They need us
No.
beside them to go, you do have this, and you also have me next to you.
And that's the safety, and I'm not gonna separate from you, and there's a start and finish time to the pain, and I've got you through the whole thing. And that's the coach part. That's the beauty in it. I've got you through this.
Oh my gosh, I just got goosebumps, and I really hope the listeners have too, because parenting is tricky. It's hard. It is something we need to keep working on. It's not an innate skill. There's parts of it that are, but we need to educate ourselves. We need to have open, honest conversations with other parents, with professionals, and just realize we don't have all the answers. I think, Michelle, do you find that just giving yourself a little bit of a break sometimes too, that everyone's doing the best with what they know?
Oh, man. If parents are showing up and prepared to grow from that point, you are on my incredible parent list. Like, that is the incredible parent, showing up and prepared to just grow from that point.
Yeah. Even if people have listened to the end of this episode now, and we're only half an hour, and I know that you would love to hear more from Michelle. But I reckon if you've even got to this point in the episode and you've stuck with it, and you've listened to the challenge, you've listened to the insights, then that already is a big pat on the back for you. You're a parent who is wanting to be there and to learn and to grow alongside your children. And if you know of any parent who would really benefit from listening to this episode, please share it with them. It's a really beautiful act to say to somebody, hey, when we were talking about that the other day, you might find a lot of value out of this conversation too. And that's the ripple effect. And I was talking to Michelle off air just before we came on, and one of the reasons I wanted to speak with Michelle and have Michelle on here, and Michelle, I know, don't want to make you feel uncomfortable here, but the work Michelle does has such a big ripple effect that very rarely do we know the ripple effect of the work that we do. And as a parent, you have no idea the ripple effect that you're having on your children through all of these little tiny actions, these little tiny moments. It's even through their friends seeing how you relate to them. It's through your partner seeing how you relate to your kids. And this is the beautiful ripple effect. So, Michelle, I just want to say thank you so much for your time being here on Distracted, and for the special parent episode today. I know I got a lot out of it, and I'm sure our listeners do too. So thanks so much, Michelle.
That's powerful, Angela. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And if anybody wants to know more about Michelle, I really would applaud, encourage you, I should say, to go and check out Michelle's work at michellemitchell.org. All of her resources are on there. All of her live events and programs are on there. I would really, having been to one of Michelle's live events, I know there'll be a series coming out next year. I would really encourage you to go. The energy and the vibe is really special, but it also gives you permission to learn alongside of trying and alongside other people who are just trying to do the best for their kids. So head on over to michellemitchell.org. I'll link everything to her. But Michelle, you're wonderful. Thank you so much. And you've been listening to Angela Lockwood here on Distracted. And thanks so much, everyone. And for all you amazing parents, just keep going. And thank you for loving our kids.